We've got some breaking news here. The Atlanta Falcons are making a signing. They are bringing in return specialist and special team ace Jamal Agnew. So we're going to talk about him, who he is as a player, get you familiar with him, and what his role will be on this Falcons roster, which, spoiler, it's special teams. I don't think they are signing him to play receiver, which is the last position he played, or defensive back, which he played coming out of college for the Detroit Lions. No, the one-time Pro Bowl special teams ace Jamal Agnew, I believe, is coming over to replace Avery Williams, who left in free agency for the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is, in my eyes, your new kick returner. He was a Pro Bowler for the Jags in 2022. He did not play at all in the regular season of 2024. Signed with the Steelers practice squad in November. Never got elevated up to the active roster on game day or stepped on the field. But speaking of stepping on the field, he is not a frequent flyer on offense. He started off, like I said, playing corner. Then halfway through his career, he made the transition to wide receiver. And looking over his offensive snap counts, going back to his last season of the regular season, 2023, just putting numbers out there in order of his most recent games, 9 snaps. 31, 10, 3, 20, 29. So this is not a signing that is fueled by adding more talent for Michael Penix to throw to. This is a special team signing and a reflection of, hey, that new rule that came in last year, the new kick return rule, well, that was actually just a 1-year trial. And it sounds like it's going to be renewed because you're seeing teams emphasize kick returners. And the Falcons could use a little bit of a spark and a boost at that position. They really have not had a kick returner that can, flip the field for them on a consistent basis for quite some time. So hard to dislike this signing. It's a very cheap signing. Mike Garafolo, 1-year deal worth a max of $2.5 million, probably a bunch of incentives in there. So a very low-level acquisition. I wouldn't even guarantee that I wouldn't even guarantee that he's got a roster spot awaiting him. He's probably got to earn it, but I like the return upside for him and what he can bring on special teams. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, by the way. We cover all signings. This one came in while we were during our live show. And so we just put together the show for you guys here. So make sure you subscribe. That way you do not miss any more Falcons signings during free agency. Now, just talking about free agency as a whole for a moment, Atlanta's been relatively quiet so far. They haven't gone out and spent a ton. The biggest signing, Divine Diablo, $14 million over 2 seasons. After that, Leonard Floyd, 1 year, $10 million. I guess the biggest signing would have to be Mike Hughes, but that's a re-signing. And he comes in with 3 years, $18 million with a little under 10 guaranteed. So I think it's more of a 1 year, $9.6 million contract. But I'd say that the group consensus is people have been disappointed by Atlanta not spending a little bit more in free agency to beef up this defense. This is going to sound wild coming from me because I've been a pretty harsh critic of this team at times. I don't really think there was anyone worth spending big on at the defensive end, outside linebacker position. You could have signed Josh Sweat. He went to the Cardinals. No guarantee he wanted to come to Atlanta. I often think that sometimes we take for granted that, Atlanta could have offered that and they would have gotten him. Who's to say Josh Sweat would have taken that offer? He easily could have declined it because he wanted to go reunite with his old coach, Jonathan Gannon, down in the desert. But it was a bad offseason to need a few things: a quarterback and a defensive end. So as much criticism as I gave the Falcons last year for drafting Michael Penix, imagine if they went into this offseason needing a new quarterback and a new pass rusher. Oh my God, that would have been a disaster. They'd be picking first overall next year if that was the case. So this is what the new Falcons defense looks like for now. Obviously, with the draft, there's going to be some changes, some new faces, some new additions, but there's a lot that has to be overhauled at this unit. I'm excited just talking Falcons in general here for this Troy Anderson and Divine Diablo battle at inside linebacker. Diablo brings some much-needed speed at that position. Anderson, more Ellis and Landman than Anderson. They had cinder blocks for feet at times last year. Actually, I guess I'm just talking about Nate Landman. But Troy Anderson, when he came back from his injury, he looked like he lost a step as well. So adding some speed at that spot will be very, very nice. But Jamal Agnew comes over, just to kind of recap that, as a special team signing. He's a Pro Bowl kick return, punt return guy. I mean, I'm just going to look at his stats right here of his career when it comes to kick and punt returns. So I can't really get the numbers on screen. I know it's a lot easier for everyone, but in his career, he's got 4 punt returns for touchdowns, 2 kick returns for touchdowns. He averages on kick returns 25.5 yards, but he did not return a single kick last year with the new kickoff rules. I'd expect that number to go up. And on punt returns, he averages a little over 10 yards a return. So you're getting a very good, valuable piece on special teams, who I don't have high expectations for on offense, but that's fine with me. Special teams, we like to say, is a third of the game. I don't think it's actually a third of the game. If that was a third of the game, I think the draft would reflect that, and more return men, kickers, and punters would get drafted. That's not really the case. It's probably more like 10% of the game. But it's a 10% that can have a huge influence if it rears its ugly head at a very bad moment. So here's what the updated wide receiver room looks like for Atlanta. I think they're probably more content with this room than people give them credit for. Casey Washington, former day 3 pick last year out of Illinois. They have high hopes for him in year 2. And your top 3 guys were all high performers a season ago. So I don't expect them to be making many more additions to this spot on their roster in the draft or in free agency. But with Avery Williams leaving for the Eagles, you needed a new return man, and Jamal Agnew is the guy for the job. So how would you grade Atlanta's free agency so far? We will wrap up with this question here. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to give the Falcons a C, and that's generous. And listen, sometimes people get upset over grades, and it's worth mentioning grades are stupid. We're grading draft picks, we're grading signings that haven't played a single snap or minute yet. Not every team has the capability of getting an A grade. Take the draft, for example. If you don't have a first-round pick, very difficult to get an A grade because you did not get a blue-chip player. In free agency, if you didn't spend a whole lot, hard to get a good grade. You didn't go out and make a big splash acquisition. But just because you didn't do that doesn't mean that you did a bad job. It's just you didn't have a lot to spend and there was nothing worth spending on at that market. So I don't think a C is, a disrespectful comment to Atlanta's offseason. I think it's a reflection of there was no one really worth spending big on at the positions you needed. And so why make a big splashy signing just for the sake of making one, and you end up regretting it in a season or 2? I never thought I would be defending the Falcons for not getting more pass rushers, but there just weren't a lot of great options, unfortunately. And they got Leonard Floyd, so they didn't do nothing. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in for our breakdown of this signing here. Make sure to subscribe on your way out if you haven't already, and I'll see everyone next time.